Welcome to Huddle Adventures. I'm Eddie. Laura's in here right now. Laura's in here right now because this is Eddie's Cruise News. Today is Thursday, August 25th, 2022, and we're going to get into all of these new COVID-19 protocols, these new relaxed COVID-19 protocols by all the cruise lines. And when we're done, we're going to get into some cruise commentary, and we're going to do that right after this. Okay, 2 weeks ago, we shared a news story here about Norwegian severely loosening their COVID-19 protocols. Norwegian did this shortly after Carnival and Royal reduced their COVID-19 protocols. But Norwegian said, hey, hold my beer and watch this. And they went big time on loosening up their COVID-19 protocols. At that point, when I shared that news story, I told you we would see all the other cruise lines follow Norwegian quickly. It would probably happen within the week or so, and it did. Now, but it took like almost 2 full weeks for all the cruise lines to do it. I waited until today to do this because I didn't want to be reporting on each individual line as they made their changes. So now we have more concise information from multiple cruise lines, and here are their changes. And to make this easy on me, I got an article I printed that was published yesterday at 2:15 p.m. Yesterday was August 24th by USA Today. And I'm going to read some highlights of this to you. Here is the biggest part of this entire news story I'm going to share today. 3 major cruise lines have announced they will accept self-administered COVID-19 tests in many cases where requirements remain. Self-administered COVID-19 tests, the over-the-counter type, meaning there's no telehealth professional watching you take this test. That's not required anymore. You can use any kind of COVID test that you can get your hands on, the ones they give you free from the government, the ones you buy at your local drugstore, Amazon, wherever you want to buy them. Carnival Cruise Line said the line will accept self-administered tests in addition to lab-administered tests from unvaccinated guests on voyages that are 15 nights or shorter beginning September 6th. Some destinations, however, including Bermuda and Canada, require self-tests to be medically supervised. And that's going to apply to every cruise line, guys. I'm not going to repeat that. Just keep that in mind. If your cruise line is going to Bermuda or Canada, your COVID-19 protocols are going to be different. So make sure you know that. Royal Caribbean International Celebrity Cruises, owned by the same company, also announced a similar change. Royal Caribbean will allow guests on U.S. cruises to take a home test or one professionally administered by a health professional as of September 5th, according to its website, as will Celebrity. Okay, so I'm going to skip some of this stuff because it's not important. And we're going to talk about when are cruise lines requiring testing. That's the most important thing, right? When do you need a COVID test now? Well, starting in September, when will you need a COVID test to sail? Carnival Cruise Line will require pre-cruise testing for vaccinated passengers only on trips 16 nights or longer or where local rules mandate it, such as on sailings to Canada and Bermuda. That Canada and Bermuda, as I said earlier, will apply to all these cruise lines. And that will start on September 6th. Passengers who are unvaccinated or do not show proof of vaccination will still need to present the results of a negative PCR or antigen test taken within 3 days of embarkation. Those under 5 years old are exempt from vaccine and testing requirements in the U.S. And they can be over-the-counter self-administered tests. Royal Caribbean will require vaccinated guests 5 and up to take a pre-cruise test on sailings, U.S. sailings, 10 nights or longer within 3 days of boarding, beginning September 5th, according to its website. Unvaccinated guests 5 and older must take a test within 3 days of their trip on all sailings. The changes are subject to local rules. Okay. Celebrity Cruises is the same as Royal, so we have to get in that. And here's Norwegian. Norwegian Cruise Line Holding will drop all pre-cruise requirements for vaccinated guests ages 12 and over as of September 3rd, according to a news release. Guests ages 12 and older who are unvaccinated or do not show proof of vaccination will still need to test within 72 hours before boarding. The company said it continues to strongly recommend all guests be up to date on vaccination protocols and test at their convenience prior to travel. Changes are subject to local requirements. On sailings from the U.S., MSC Cruises requires tests for fully vaccinated passengers sailing on trips 6 nights or longer, and for all unvaccinated passengers aged 2 or older, regardless of trip length, according to a press release. Tests must be taken within 3 days of embarkation. The cruise line recommends guests test within 1 day of the trip when possible. Princess Cruises will require passengers sailing on trips 16 nights or longer to take a supervised test within 3 days of embarkation, starting September 6th. So, again, Princess is owned, and Holland American are owned by Carnival. Royal Caribbean owns Celebrity. So, in the beginning of this, I told you 3 major cruise lines are allowing people to do over-the-counter self-administered tests. And I told you it was Royal Caribbean, Celebrity, and Carnival, according to this news story. But I'm going to go on a limb here, and I'm going to say it's going to be Carnival, it's going to be Princess, it's going to be Holland American, and it's going to be Royal Caribbean and Celebrity. So that is what we're dealing with. So we are seeing a severe loosening of the COVID-19 protocols, and this is great news because that means cruising is getting back to normal. We got the news out of the way, the details out of the way. We covered the COVID-19 protocols, the new relaxed COVID-19 protocols. Now it's time for my commentary. I want to share my opinion on this topic with you guys and get your take on it. Okay, so here, number one, part of me is super happy about this. As a person that has anxiety, having to get a negative COVID-19 test before all of our cruises has drove me nuts. It's just one last thing to stress out about right at the last minute. And to make it worse, as a fully vaccinated, boosted, essential employee who worked throughout the entire pandemic, I know that it is possible to be positive COVID-19 and have 0 symptoms. So I've never taken the test with any kind of symptoms thinking, oh my goodness, I hope it isn't COVID that I have. I've had 0 symptoms, but that didn't stop me from stressing out. So I welcome an anxiety-free last 3 days before the cruise. Okay, just give me my normal anxiety, not this crazy, I'm gonna not get to go on a cruise at the last minute COVID-19 testing. So with that, that's great news. And I'm sure it's great news for the rest of you. And I'm sure it's great news for you guys that are anti-vaccine that now are going to get to cruise. I'm sure it's really good news to you as well. Now, here's where my concerns come in. My major concern is we are going to see a spike in COVID-19 this fall and the winter, that we may see a new strain of COVID-19, which they keep warning us about, and we're going to see a huge outbreak on 1, 2, 3, maybe more ships by November. And we're going to wake up the CDC and they're going to say, whoa, 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 whoa. And they're going to either lock us back down with restrictions or shut the cruise industry down again. Who knows? That's where my concern comes in. Now you might think, oh, you're, being Chicken Little, the sky's falling, you're being cynical. Okay. Hear me out. We were on a cruise last week. If you're new to the channel, Laura and I went on the Carnival Magic to Bermuda last week. We spent 2 full days in New York City, all over Manhattan, by bus and by foot, by taxi cab, everywhere, around millions of people. And then we got on we flew to New York first. I digress. From Detroit, with tons of people at the airport in Detroit, tons of people at the airport in LaGuardia, tons of people on the plane, all that. We were around all kinds of people, right? Then we got on the cruise ship, spent 7 days on a cruise ship. Now, we were tested Saturday morning before we flew to New York, and all 4 of us were negative. And I'm glad to report we are still negative. All of our fellow passengers were vaccinated. 95% of them were vaccinated, and they were all tested within 48 hours of sailing, because that's what Bermuda requires. Not 72 hours, 48 hours. We returned to New York on the Magic on Monday, basically 3 days ago. We flew back to Detroit, went back to work Tuesday morning. But Monday night, before we even went to bed, we went to our Carnival Facebook group for the cruise that we just got off and read several posts from fellow passengers that weren't feeling well that morning, got home, took a COVID-19 test, and tested positive. Since then, since Monday evening, the day that the cruise ended, and now there's been many people in our cruise group that have tested positive for COVID-19. I want to say it's close to 20% of those tested were positive. Now, you might think, well, that isn't very many people, right? Well, there's over 600 people in that group, and there's around 4,000 people on the ship. So it's a small window. 1/6 of the population on board, the 1/7, was in our group. And 20% of those that have symptoms are tested positive. Now, how many people in our group are showing no symptoms that haven't tested they're positive? Who knows? There's no definitive way of determining that. But what we do know is it was 95% vaccinated and 100% tested by health professionals or monitored by telehealth professionals online. That's not going to happen starting in September. In September, these ships are going to be unvaccinated and vaccinated, a higher number of unvaccinated people on board, and their tests are going to be over-the-counter home tests. They're not going to be monitored. So how do we know what percentage of these people are going to cheat on these tests? I hate to sound cynical, guys, but people are going to cheat on a test. Are you going to miss out on going on a $2,000, $3,000 cruise? Or are you just going to fake it? Who knows? I can't say for sure. I don't know how many people are dishonest, but I do believe we're going to see more people getting on board infected than we normally would have with the professional, monitored tests. And here's my big concern. My biggest concern about all of this. Even now, the people that are ending up in the hospital and intensive care and dying from COVID, because it's still happening, it's a real small number now compared to when it was at its peak. But those people tend to be unvaccinated people. My concern is we're going to have several cruise ships this fall. The CDC is predicting COVID will spike in the fall and winter. We might see new strains. We're going to see a few cruise ships get overwhelmed with cases. And that is going to be terrible because it's going to get the CDC involved again. That's my concern. You might think I'm overreacting, but again, I have a control group, the Magic I just got off of. I'm looking at going, whoa, wait a minute. None of those people from our cruise group are in the hospital, all right? Some of them are sick enough that they haven't gone back to work. They've been laid up with flu-like symptoms for the last 3 days, and they went to the doctor to get medical treatment. And then the other ones, a lot of them are asymptomatic and they're positive. So again, it's just one of those things that I'm nervous about. I'm not nervous about, everyone's going to die on the cruise ship or I'm going to get sick on the cruise ship. That's not what I'm concerned about. I'm concerned that the CDC is going to get back involved with cruising and make it much more difficult and harder on us and make it a less enjoyable experience. So that's what I'm worried about. And I want to know what you guys think. What do you think? Do you think I'm overreacting? Do you share my concerns? When I told you 2 weeks ago that when Norwegian did it, we're going to see the other ones do it. You know, it's such a competitive industry that they almost have to do what the other guy's doing in order to keep their market share. You see, are they allowing the pursuit of shareholder satisfaction and profits overwhelm their concern for safety? Are they gambling? Do they really feel that bold that they know what's going to happen with this COVID-19 virus moving into the fall? I don't know, guys. That's why I thought I have to call this commentary too. And I just want to know if, I'm alone in my concerns. So with that said, I want to thank you for tuning in and watching our news vlog, Eddie's Cruise News, and listening to my rambling concerns. I'm not a worrywart or like I said, Chicken Little, the sky's falling kind of guy, or even cynical. And I'm surely not a conspiracy theory guy. But I do know that, a lot of times when greed goes unchecked, bad things happen, right? And it's usually the little guy that ends up taking the brunt of it, right? So with that said, let me know, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.